That's really bright. I'm blinding myself. Hi, hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Stephanie. I decided to come on a bit of a last minute car camping trip. I have not therefore done any filming of what I've packed because it was really last minute. I decided to just go, oh, hang on a minute. It's the weekend and I've got no plans, so let's go somewhere. Chucked a load of stuff in the car, didn't go through my list, so I'm sure I will have forgotten things. And I'm just gonna head off now and see where we end up. So come along with me for the ride. Hi, I hope you can hear me. Well, I've had a bit of an adventure, shall we say. I thought, oh, I'll head across to the West Country and camp up somewhere there. Sounded like a good plan. I checked the map and it was a little bit like a bit trafficky, and it was because there was a road closure, but that was absolutely fine because I just thought, wow, it's all right, I'll just like wobble along and find my way in the world. Then my sat nav or GPS, depending on where in the world you're watching this from, decided that it had other ideas, and it was like, oh, hang on a minute, there's another road closure that's come that's like unexpected. So it then said essentially that I'd have to take a diversion. So of course I was like, yep, sure, whatever. In my experience, the GPS knows where's like the quickest route to go. So I'm like, yep, absolutely great, fine. So I take the diversion, and it took me down those little tiny country lanes, you know, where you've got there's no like passing, and so to be able to pass you have to like essentially pull over and squeeze past each other, and that was for absolute miles. And what was even worse is that it was not it was not supposed to rain tonight. The weather forecast said that it was not going to rain tonight, and well, as you can hear, it's absolutely hammering down. And so all these little country lanes were all quite flooded, and I didn't know where I was going. It was just, it was really, really stressful. Anyway, I'd been driving for a grand total of about 3 hours to do a journey that would actually normally take me about maybe 2.5 if there was traffic. And finally I thought, right, you know what, I'm pretty done with this for tonight. I'm just gonna like stop somewhere and settle in for the night. So I checked online at like places to, you know, car camp for the night, places that are, you know, good for that sort of thing. And I saw that not far from where I was, there was a picnic area, you know, the kind of thing that you can just like pull off of the main road and park up and have a little bit of a rest and a picnic. So I thought, yeah, perfect. So I drove to it, pulled into it, and guess what? I don't know what's happened, but it's no longer a picnic area. There are now massive barriers up, and it says no unauthorised vehicles, and you wouldn't be able to get in even if you tried. And it's now private, so no picnic area. But I thought, no worries, because I did spot on the way leading up to the picnic area, I spotted outside, I saw those sort of like side of the road spots where truckers park up. And I thought, oh, if a trucker is parked up, then like it must be okay to park there for the night. And I actually personally prefer not to park on those side of the road spots because I don't know, I just get a bit paranoid about someone coming and driving into the side of my car. But I thought, no, that's fine, whatever. So I then parked up. Fine, no problem. There was a couple of trucks parked there on one side and one on the other side, and they were all, you know, shut in for the night. And I thought, yeah, great, no problem. So as I've sort of stopped, and I just decided, like just before I started to get my stuff sorted out, I had a quick drink of my nice hot cup of tea that I have in my flask. And as I started drinking my tea, all of a sudden I became aware of a presence. Yeah. There's a bloke standing outside my window looking at me. And I was like, huh. And for a second I thought maybe he was going to check if I was okay or something, but I just sort of like made it very obvious that I was just on my phone. I just sort of gave him a look. You know when you have a, like, give someone a look that's just as if to say, like, I'm looking at you, So obviously if I needed help, I'd be asking by now. And he just sort of like turned and sort of shuffled away. And don't worry, I always lock my doors from the inside before I come up to park. And then all of a sudden, he sort of like started walking back over towards me again. And I thought, nah, mate, I'm out. So I just started the car and started driving forward. And then he started walking towards me again. And I was like, no. I mean, he was probably just going to ask me a question to try and sort of like get directions or something. That's probably what it was. I'm sure he wasn't actually an axe murderer, but still, it was enough to freak me out. So I drove away. And then as soon as I got to like an appropriate place to stop, I did so. And then I thought, you know what? I know I'm not actually a million miles away from where one of my sisters lives. And so I checked on the map to see where that would be. And it was only half an hour away from where I was. So I thought, right, okay, sod it. I'm going to drive to where my sister lives. And it's now 2:00 in the morning. So I will not be waking her up. But I just feel more comfortable and safe knowing that I'm like literally parked outside her house, and in the morning when she gets up she'll totally recognize my car because it's very recognizable because it's bright red and has Spanish number plates. And I'll also send her a message now just so that she knows I'm here in the morning. But yeah, I just knowing that I'm like really close to somebody who could save me in an emergency, that makes me feel better. But yeah, anyway, I'm now gonna have to do the master art of setting up the car in the rain, which means doing it all from the inside, which I do actually have my setup so that I can do it from the inside, but because I didn't anticipate it raining, I didn't really put everything in its place where it's easier to do it from the inside, because it's got like a certain way that it's just like to set it up. If you know it's going to be raining, and you put it in a certain places in the inside to set it up. But yeah, didn't anticipate this one. Okay, anyway, I'm gonna get set up. I may or may not just pass out asleep tonight. I actually brought a book to read, and obviously I thought I'd update you guys like once I was all tucked up, but I'm knackered now, absolutely knackered. I've been driving for what, 4 hours to do a 2-hour 15-minute journey, and I'm not where I wanted to be, and it's pissing with rain, and yeah, okay, all right, yeah, I'm gonna get set up. Bye. Would you believe my bad luck has gotten even worse? Because I have one of those little, hang on, let me show you. I have one of those little pot things to wee into, and I had a last minute wee before bed. I had finished like brushing my teeth and everything and getting sorted, and then I went a last minute wee a few minutes ago, and it has this little funnel thing at the top, kind of like a she-wee, only yep, you guessed it, as I was in the mid-flow, the top just suddenly just popped off, and I was like, ugh! And thankfully I've got some pretty damn good pelvic floor muscles, because I managed to like stop, and it's only like a drip that escaped, but still, you know, and you're like, for goodness sake, what more could go wrong? Oh, now I'm scared that I've just said that. That something more actually will go wrong. Anyway, I'm all tucked up in bed. I will quickly turn the camera around and show you my actual setup that I've made now. But I am going to read a couple of seconds of my book. I say a couple of seconds because I'd like to say a couple of chapters, but I think in about 2 seconds I'll just fall asleep. So I'm just going to read a little bit of my book and then go to sleep. But I must say, even though it is British winter time, I'm not cold at all. I've got my duvet on, and quite honestly, if I'd have just brought my summer sleeping bag, I'd have been all right. It's not too cold at all, and the windows are cracked open a little bit because of, you know, ventilation purposes. So yeah, totally cozy, snug as a bug. Obviously, if you saw by one of my previous car camping videos, you'll know that I fit full length in the back of my Ford Fiesta. Yes, I do. And also from the last video I made, I have my sleeping platform that I made in that video, which is just working wonders because it is such a comfy bed now. Anyway, I'm going to show you that, and then I'm going to bid you good night. Good morning. Oh, well, okay. I decided to take one of the window coverings down so that I don't have the light in my face like Blair Witch Project style. Good morning. Well, I, in the end, had a very comfortable sleep. Dreamt of all sorts of things. But no, it was perfectly fine. Very, very, very comfortable on my sleeping platform that I made a few weeks ago. In fact, so comfortable that it's nearly 10 o'clock in the morning that I've now woken up. So yeah, I have actually made plans to hang out with my family today, given that I'm here. And so then I'm going to stay at theirs tonight and then pack up and go probably over the border to Wales tomorrow. So what I'm going to do as I pack up is I'm going to make sure that I pack up in a way more organised manner so that wherever I stay tomorrow night, I don't have the same issue if I have unexpected rain or anything like that. The issues I had last night about getting my stuff together because I hadn't packed it like properly was just a nightmare. Honestly, it made me think I don't want to do this again because it was just so awkward, but that's totally on me for not being a bit more organised. So I'll make sure as I pack up that I pack up a bit more in a bit more of an organised manner. Please excuse my hair. That's the one downside to car camping, is it certainly doesn't do your fashion any favours. What is that squeaking sound? Oh, I think that might be my seatbelt. Maybe I'd better undo it. There we go. I am parked, don't worry, obviously. Okay. I have some odd news to say, and that is that I think for now I'm going to have to not go car camping anymore. And there is a reason for it. So I mentioned before that there was a guy that kind of was like lurking by my window. And I'll be honest, at the time, it kind of made me go, whoa. And then I kind of just drove off and I was just like, fine. However, I think it must have played on my mind because I've ended up having like dreams about it and like kind of like freaky dreams. And I don't think it's just because of that one single incident. I think it's actually because of something that's happened on a previous trip that I never told you about, and it's kind of like affected me. And so then this happening now has kind of like just added to the thing that happened previously. Now I actually had no intention at all whatsoever of telling you guys about what happened before, because for one thing, I didn't want to scare anybody. I didn't want to put anybody off because, quite frankly, the thing that happened was actually nothing at all to do with car camping. It was purely coincidental that it happened when I was on a car camping trip. Do not let it put anyone else off car camping. If you're thinking of going car camping, do not decide not to because of this. It's just simply that because I've now had two things that are like freaked me out that happened when car camping, and I've been car camping more than twice. So clearly it's not, bad things don't happen every time. Okay, so here we go. It was when I was still in Spain and I had essentially been car camping. I didn't film it because I couldn't really be bothered to film every single time, but I'd been car camping and it was cool, and I was camping next to a mountain because I wanted to get like a really early start on climbing said mountain, because I'm not really one for early mornings, so if I can be right next to the mountain then it means that it takes off an hour and a half's journey. So I had driven to the base of the mountain and parked up next to it for the night, and I had a perfectly lovely night's sleep, and it was all great and it was all fine and dandy. Okay, anyway, next morning I wake up and all is fine, and sorry, my hand's getting a bit tired. I really should get like a cradle for my phone or something. And so yeah, the next morning I packed all my stuff up and got my hiking boots on and I went up said mountain. And that's all fine. However, when I came back down, I ended up bumping into an elderly gentleman at the very, very base of the mountain. So I was like not that far away from my car. It was like, perfectly normal road. By the time I saw him, he clearly had not climbed said mountain because he was very elderly. And essentially it was just a case of like, hello, good morning, he was Spanish. I'm not going to translate, but yeah, it was like, hello, good morning, whatever, pass the time. And as I carried on walking, he started walking alongside me and he started talking to me, which is fine, not a problem, obviously. And as I was walking towards my car, I'm terrible with measurements, so I'm going to use bus lengths for this, okay? So let's say the length of 3 buses away from my car. The gentleman, like in this time, is saying to me that he owns a field that is next to the base of the mountain and that he comes there every morning to sort of check on property that he has in the field. So he has it's called a casita, which is basically a little tiny house that is in the field that people usually have, like if they're working the fields, then they'll just have a little rest in this house, and it's got amenities, like it usually has like it's got a loo, it's got a kitchenette, and it's got a bed and that sort of stuff. It's like a tiny house kind of situation. So he said that he's got there this morning and that his blinds are not working. Like he can't pull his blinds down. Now, I don't know if anyone knows about Spanish houses, but he's not referring to like blinds as in blinds and curtains. It's on the outside of houses. They have these big, usually either aluminium or plastic roller blind things that comes down on the outside. Imagine like a British shop shutter. Shop shutter? Yes, that's the right word. Shop shutters. I wasn't sure if I was actually speaking English there. Yeah, so shop shutters, that kind of thing. And so he was saying that it was broken. Now, he didn't ask me for help. He just said it in passing. And I thought, you know what, I've got time. And I said, oh, where is it? And he pointed out the field that it was in. And I could actually, from where I was standing, I could see said house. And I would say it was maybe 4 or 5 bus lengths away from where we were standing, but I could see it from where I was, see it from the road. And so I just thought, I will offer to help, because why not? I'm taller than him. He only came up to like my shoulder, and he was walking with a cane, and he was a very elderly gentleman. And so I offered to help, because that's what kind people do. Yeah, don't I regret being kind? So I said, yeah, okay, did you want me to help you? And he said, oh, would you? Oh, thanks ever so much. That stops me from having to bother my son. And I said, yeah, of course I can. I've got time. So off we walk, and we're walking through the field to get to the house. And the whole time he's walking very slowly. I mean, I could have walked it in under 5 minutes, like well under 5 minutes. I could have walked it very easily. But because, he's very elderly, walked with a cane, it took us probably about 15 minutes to actually walk there, because he walked very slowly and unsteadily. I then get to the house, and I could see what the problem was. The persiana, so that's a Spanish name. The blind was like caught up at an angle, and I know how to fix that. It's very easy. If you go on the inside, there's like not like a rope, but like a rope string, whatever. There's a rope. I'm gonna call it a rope. And if you pull that to give it some slack, and then pull that corner of the blind, it will just fall back into place, and then you can let it down. Not a problem. So I know how to fix it. Not a problem. Great. So I went to walk in to the house, and you go through the front door, and then that bit is on your left. But of course, walking from the bright sunshine into the dark house, because they tend to have very, very tiny windows, so they tend to be quite dark inside. Obviously, it's to keep the sun out and make it not too hot, as they don't tend to have air conditioning. So as I walked in, and I was like walking in, knowing full well I'd be walking in and turning to the left very quickly. I walked in, turned to the left, and just as I get round the corner to the left, something in my brain kind of clicks into place. But by this point, I've already done the motion of walking around to the left. I'm already standing at the window, and as I pull the string, the rope, the bit that controls it, I suddenly kind of get the prickles, you know what I mean, that sort of sixth sense of something's not right here. And the reason for it was that this place they had nothing, not a glass, not a washing up sponge, nothing. There was like, it was as if nobody had lived there for years. It was completely dusty. It was like no one had ever been in it for years. It looked abandoned, except a bed with some very clean white sheets on it. And it straight away made me go, ooh, something's not right here. But by this point, I'd already pulled the cord, and I just had to literally just go to pull the blind down. So I quickly did it, and then I ran to get out of the house. And as I ran to the door, I don't think the gentleman was expecting me to be in and out so quickly, because he, at this point, had only just got to the door, and he was actually he was in the motion of going to close the door. Which again, why would you be closing the door if I'm literally there to just pull down the blind? There's no reason to close the door. It's not like, you're trying to stop mosquitoes or keep the air conditioning in or anything like that at all. But yeah, I was rushing to get out, and he was about to close the door, and I sort of like just kind of against him at the front door, and I was like, okay, it's fixed, as I was sort of like going to go past him, at which point he then he then grabs hold of me, starts trying to kiss me, starts trying to touch me, shall we just say inappropriately, and leave it at that. And I obviously started trying to push him off of me, and all of a sudden this little tiny innocent man who can hardly walk, and he's leaning on his cane, all of a sudden, I mean, don't get me wrong, he hadn't grown or anything, and he certainly hadn't decreased in years, but all of a sudden he was a lot more physically able than he had previously appeared, and he was trying to like fight me back into the property. And I just basically shoved the little old man out the way, and I don't feel guilty for it because I know what he was trying to do, and I ran for it. He, all of a sudden, despite the fact that he actually was walking with a cane previously, as I pushed him, like the cane sort of fell down. I don't know where it was at what point, because it wasn't in his hand as he was trying to grope me. But I heard it sort of fall, so I don't know if he sort of leant it against the door or the wall or whatever, I don't know, but it fell. And he certainly didn't pick it up to chase after me. He just suddenly was perfectly capable of running after me. And I, at this point, then start to run through the field. He turns around to the back of the property. It's quite a small property, but it's very like, it's like a small square. So at the point of us walking up towards it, I hadn't seen that just behind it, he had a car parked. So I run off. He jumps in his vehicle. He's run to jump in his vehicle, not needing his cane all of a sudden, and starts driving after me. And of course I'm running as fast as I can because, well, he's in a vehicle. He's a bit faster than I am, but I ran. I mean, I ran to get out there, and I ran out of the field, and I was running towards my car. And as I was running towards my car, I was getting my keys in my hand ready. And just as I got to my car, I jumped in it, and I actually had, like, you know, the sun visor things, I actually had that down, and I didn't even stop to take it off because he then started trying to block me in with his vehicle, and I just drove up onto the pavement. Don't worry, it's the kind of area where there's not likely to have been pedestrians like at that point. And I had the sun visor still on, and I don't regret that. I wouldn't know if I'd have stopped to take the sun visor down, or if I had not driven up onto the pavement or whatever. Who knows what would have happened at that point, because he was blocking me in. So I just, as he's blocked me in on the road, I've driven up over the pavement, sped across out of him. Thankfully, I am a very capable driver because I have training. More than an average person's driving training. And I sped off down the road, and obviously was pulling the sun visor out of my way as I was going, because I'm not going to drive like 70 miles an hour with the sun visor on. That's like mental. But he was driving after me, and I think it was about 30 limit, and I was definitely going about 70, like just whopping it away from him. But it's not a built up area. There was not like other vehicles on the road. And then eventually I could see in the distance that there was a police car, and that police car was obviously doing like just normal patrols, and they just pulled into sort of like a housing area off to my left. And so I just bombed it, and I just went straight away and like speedily went around the corner to like into the urbanization, where I then was beeping and flashing at the police and caught up to him. He'd obviously seen that I'd spotted a police car, and so he just carried on driving. When I stopped and spoke to the police, I explained what happened, and as I'd explained about the fact that he owned land and he had a house on it, and when they said like, oh, where's this house, and when I told them exactly where it was, one of them kind of looked a bit like, ooh, okay. And I was like, oh, you know who he is? And he said, yeah. And he said his name, and it was definitely the same name that the guy had given me. And it turns out that this guy is like a multimillionaire and he owns land. Like, he owns so much land in that area. Most of it is his. And apparently, according to the police officer, he's 89 years old. And back in his youth, he was very well known in the area as being like a horrible person, like an awful boss. And he used to employ like illegal immigrants, and usually South Americans, and he would basically exploit them. And it was kind of like a known thing in the area that he would use the kind of workers that he could exploit. And so people who maybe were in the country illegally or hadn't organised their papers yet or whatever. And it kind of dawned on me at that point that, like, I was thinking, like, that kind of person, I mean, let's face it, you don't get to 89 years old and suddenly then decide that you're going to try and attack a young woman. You definitely don't. And so it's definitely going to be like not the first time that he's tried something like that. However, although the police were very aware of his reputation, there'd been no previous reports for that kind of like attempted sexual attack. And that was something that kind of freaked me out, because I thought, he's got so much land and he's got multiple of these fields with casitas in them. And if I'm the first, there's no way I'm the first person that he's actually tried to attack. However, if you sort of think, well, that kind of person that is going to only attack sort of vulnerable people, why would he pick me? You know, I'm a very like sturdy type of person. Sturdy is a weird way to describe myself, but do you know what I mean? I'm a very strong person, and also like I'm British, that kind of person who's going to go for the very vulnerable person. In those circumstances, they're not likely to pick the Brit. However, I have been told many times when I'm speaking Spanish that I have a South American accent. The amount of times I've had a Spanish person ask me where in South America I am from, many times. So I think that he had assumed from my accent, from just, you know, us passing the day talking to each other as I walked to the bottom of the mountain, I think he'd assumed that I was South American, and in his experience he can take advantage of South Americans. I mean, I'm assuming all of this stuff because I do not know what was going on in his mind. It's just that from the fact that 89 is a bit of a weird time to start attacking women, and the fact that he's very well known for employing South Americans who he's then taken advantage of, certainly financially, probably in other ways. That's why I have that theory that that's probably why he thought he could do something like that to me and get away with it. Which is pretty scary, because it makes you think, how many people has he done things like that to and gotten away with it because he's threatened them and said like, I'm a millionaire who owns land in the area, and you have nothing, and you don't even have paperwork, and that kind of thing. I just think, yeah, pretty scary. I want to re-ascertain the fact that it's not to do with car camping, but obviously it was pretty scary. It was pretty freaky, and the fact that it turned out that I'd actually been parked just down the road from his place, and I kind of think, like, I don't know, it kind of just left me a bit freaked out by it. And I'm one of those people that I like to not let things like that freak me out, and I like to just go, no, I have dealt with worse than that in my life, like actually worse. I've had worse than that happen to me, and I have overcome everything that's ever been thrown at me. And so I don't, that's not going to bother me, that's not going to worry me. Sod it, this little old man who's trying to sexually assault me, like, he's not going to get away with it. I mean, yes, okay, if I hadn't have acted as quickly as I did, he would have been inside, he would have shut the door and I imagine locked it, and who knows what he would have used his cane for. But none of that happened because I got away, and I didn't want it to let it bother me. And so I carried on, and I've been car camping multiple times since. But I think just the fact of that guy standing outside my car kind of looming, and I'll be honest, he was probably just coming over to check if I needed help. He probably thought, oh, is she pulled over because she's got a flat tire or she needs directions? That's probably what it was. It's just, when you've had like a bad experience and then it gets embedded with another bad experience. So I'm not saying that I'm never going to go car camping again, because I don't ever want to let any situation like that bring me down. No way. They can all go to bad places. They can go to hell if they think they're gonna change how I live my life and what I want to do in my life and the adventures that I want to go on. It's just that for now I've got enough other stuff going on in my life that I need to focus on. I've got so many things that are incredibly stressful going on for me at the moment, some of which I share on my channel, and some of which I probably won't, some of which I might share with you in the future once things are clear as to what is actually going on. Maybe I'll share them in future videos, who knows. But for now, I just think I've got enough going on that I need to deal with to not add that to it, to not have to try and get over something that was not very nice that happened to me. I'll wait until other stuff is all sorted out, and once all that other stuff is sorted out, then I will revisit this moment in my life and I will get over it, because there's no way it's gonna bring me down. So yeah, I just thought I would just explain why it is that I think I'm gonna have to knock it on the head for it. I mean, to be honest, I'm currently in Britain and it's winter, and not that the rain's ever gonna, stop me. I go camping in a tent when it's raining. So camping in my car is actually, that's a good point. Camping in a tent, anyone can break into your tent. Camping in a car, way safer. It's just, I just don't feel like I can do it right now. So yeah, sorry if this video gives car camping a bad name. I just needed to share it. Yeah. Anyway, I was gonna stay another night away, but I can't do it. I just can't do it. And I thought about going somewhere and maybe booking into like a cheap, I don't know, B&B or something. But to be quite honest, the weather forecast for the next few days is horrendous anyway. So I think I might actually just head home and focus on some of the other stuff I've got going on for now. But don't worry, it'll all be fine. It will. And one day I'll be like, hey, I'm car camping again. Look at me, guys. Yay. I just not at this precise moment. Anyway, I really need a wee now, and it's getting a bit dark and I need some food. So I'm going to quickly go and just source that sort of thing. And then I'm gonna head home and unpack and put my car camping stuff away for at least a couple of months. I hope you will understand my reasons.